So this is underglaze. This what you will be using, velvet underglazes. Just like the name implies, you paint with it before you apply the glaze. So you can paint it on leather hard or on clay before it is bisqued, before it goes into firing for the first time. Or you can paint it after. But you cannot paint with it over the glaze. So it goes under glaze. You will receive it in a different container. It is literally clay with stain, and it settles. Do you see how the heavy particles settle and then the liquid is on top? So you have to, if it's in a container like this, you can shake it and you have to stir it. So before you use it, you have to mix it really well. If you receive it in a small container, just stir it to make sure that it's homogeneous. Okay. I actually have this charcoal one. It's a different brand, but that's what I'll be using. So this is a simple form and I want to embellish it. I will show you a technique called sgraffito. So it's sgraffito. That's when you paint the whole thing and then you scratch the design, so it lets the clay exposes the raw clay like this. Before I begin, I need to conceptualize how I want to decorate it. I have this design that I came up with in my sketchbook, so that's what I'll be doing. First, I'm going to paint the whole outside with one color, and I'll do something with the inside later. So the brush, you should have soft brush. This is a goat hair brush. This is just a watercolor brush. For the color to be consistent, make sure to paint 2 coats and let it dry in between. While your piece is drying, let's talk about carving tools. You can scratch with the needle tool. It'll make a line. Sometimes the line will be ragged, so you'll have to press it. There's this tool also that you can scrape some clay out. I have this wire tool. You see there's a loop here, a little tiny loop. That's really handy. You can find something at home that you can use. Fork will give you 4 lines at the same time. A comb. Also, you can make a loop tool like this with the paper clip. So what you can do is open it up. You can leave it like this, or you can make it thinner. And then take a pencil and duct tape it like this. And you'll have your tool just like that. So now it looks like it's about ready. I see some edges here that I can clean up. They're uneven. Okay, I'm going to turn the newspaper. So I'm going to examine my form. I have this pattern, right, that I want to carve into this pot. But looking at the form, it goes straight and then curves. So if I want to put these triangles here, I will have to modify this design. So what I'm going to do is to use this design just on a straight part, so make it like a band. Okay, my design has two lines here, so, and that's what I can start with. Oops. So I can do it with needle tool. It's really useful to have Lazy Susan. So I will press into the spot and then rotate it while holding the needle tool in place, secure. Okay. So now I have this line, and you see how the ragged edges right here? So just clean them up. You can just sort of smooth it out with your hand. Okay, so now I'm gonna make another line. Now the carving time. So I have this right in the center, I have these circles, and I can determine the width of triangles that way, right? So what I'm gonna do, and they're right in the center, I will carve circles, and to make the distance even, it's hard to just visually maintain an equal distance between circles. I'm gonna do one on this side and then one on the opposite side. And then, so now I have two here. I have two here, and I need two here. Right? And then in between. Okay, so now all I have to do is to carve these triangles. So the thing to remember is you're carving into, so be careful not to carve through, right? So be very careful about how much clay you're taking out. before we move on to the next one, I'm gonna show you how to clean this dry pieces of clay without creating dust. So this sponge or bigger sponge, make sure that it's wet, and instead of cleaning your table dry and creating dust, you just press the sponge to pick up this little bits and pieces of dry clay and have a bucket or container with water, so that way you're not creating dust. This is especially important if you are working inside. Okay, now my area is clean. I'm gonna look at the next pinch pot that I made. So I have pink and purple, and let's say I want to separate these feet by color. So I want the feet to be one color. There's a clear separation there where feet start from the bowl, and I want this feet to be the same color as the inside. But I also want to add on top of this already decorated surfaces, I want to enrich the surface by let's say creating a flower right here on this facets, and I want to make it pink as well because I only have pink and purple at the moment. To create the pink flower, I will paint the surface where the flower is supposed to go pink, and then I will create the resist out of newspaper. It is safe to paint the bottom of your work with underglaze, because underglaze is just colored clay. However, it is important not to paint the area that comes in contact with the table or with any surface when you set it down with glaze, because glaze melts and sticks to the shelf inside the kiln. Paint at least 2 layers of underglaze and let it dry in between. The pink underglaze is now dry, and I can place my newspaper resist over it. So I wet newspaper in water and then place it where I want it and paint over it with a different color. After you're done painting, don't let the underglaze dry completely before you remove the resist. Okay, so this now is dry, And I realized that I can add more layers of decoration to it. I can scratch here if I want to expose white clay. After this is fired, it's possible to inlay another color into scratches. So what I'm gonna do, I'll scratch some lines this way, but also I want to scratch some lines around flowers. Later I can inlay black color before I glaze, after this is fired. This will give me a nice detail. Inlaying the color into scratches, into those lines, is another decorating technique called mishima. So what I'm doing right now is sgraffito, when I'm scratching through the color to expose clay. Now I think I'll leave it alone to dry. Use masking tape if you want to create geometric patterns that has straight lines. Remember to apply several coats of underglaze for consistent coverage. Use the color in a way that interacts with the overall design. It really helps to use sketchbook to work your ideas through in color before you begin painting your pottery. The last method of decorating I show you today is mixing colors and drawing on your piece. Mixing colors allows you to extend the limited palette you might have. For example, in my case, I have pink, purple, and white. If I mix white and pink together to get light pink, I can cover the cup. And I can use pink inside of the cup to give it variation. I can also add some rouge to her cheeks using some pink. If I mix purple with white, it'll give me a light purple, which I then can use for the food. If I establish a light purple background, it will allow me to paint with dark purple and give the food some variety. After underglaze dries, you can draw through the underglaze to expose raw clay, the method called sgraffito. You can use that method to add character to the face, to outline, or to add fine lines into which later you'll be able to inlay different color. When you scratch through clay with the needle tool, it might create a ragged edge. Make sure to tap or smooth it out. If you don't, then after firing, all those edges will be really sharp.